Bulls reportedly still have a planned pursuit of Jonathan Kuminga, but with a twist. We're going to talk a little bit about that and why they're interested in Jonathan Kuminga and what it really means for the construction of the Chicago Bulls roster that they're planning. Talk a little bit about that, plus dive into the mailbag. All that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And according to Brett Siegel, who reported it, I think, late Friday, then Jake Fisher also kind of followed up on that reporting the next day, that the Bulls still have an interest in Jonathan Kuminga, but it's not what they were talking about before, whereas one point in the offseason it was talked about that the Bulls had reached out on Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade. Keep in mind, that was the only reports that we really had heard on it. It just kind of kept going on at this point. The updated reporting now comes down to the Bulls are going to be monitoring Jonathan Kuminga's situation with the interest to potentially acquire him in the offseason. Now, what that does is a couple of different things for the Bulls, right? I think that it allows another year to really see what Matas Buzelis is going to step up with offensively, right? And it also allows whether Jonathan Kuminga, who the last report that we got is leaning towards taking, I believe it's a $7.9 million qualifying offer with the Golden State Warriors that would put him back out in the free agent market in the summer of 2026, where the Bulls have some of the most cap space in the league. And at that point, they can acquire him without giving up any future assets. And my overarching issue with potentially adding Jonathan Kuminga to this team still stands. With Kuminga, Coby, and Josh Giddey on this team, you at that point have three on-ball scorers that basically all have to have the ball in their hands to be their best versions of themselves. None of them are really great defenders. Jonathan Kuminga has had moments of looking like a solid defender, but I wouldn't say that I've seen enough from him that I trust him defensively at all as of yet. And it just gets down to the point where, while Coby can get hot from three-point range, the spacing with those three players on your team is really kind of shaky at that point in time, right? So, and then the Noah Essengay part of it. Now, while I know that Kuminga no doubtedly is far more ahead of where he is right now than where Noah Essengay is slated to be as far as his offensive development, and there is some people that have made out the point, well, could Noah Essengay actually end up playing center? I think it's kind of more so long-term four where Matas moves to the three, but we know Billy Donovan and positions sometimes don't matter at all when it comes to Billy Donovan, right? So there's an aspect of that. Now, I do think that having Kuminga as a potential backup plan in case you lose Coby White and Coby White does walk in free agency, that's where things could change a little bit, right? But I want to keep in mind that even for the people that are the most optimistic about Jonathan Kuminga and wanting him on this team, it's not something that's pertinent or happening right now. But the recent rumors that are coming out now is that the Bulls are going to look at this and that he could be an offseason target for them. Now, I want to be clear, even if they do re-sign Coby and Ayo, they very well could still target Jonathan Kuminga. I think that it gets a little bit shaky if that ends up being the point. But we shall see. And the thing that Kuminga does fit with what this team has told us that they want to do, it fits the young players with experience, and it is what it is. Now you would have to turn around, you would have to pay that, and reportedly Kuminga's looking for over $30 million too. So it comes down to what are you going to do there right now? Does this past offseason make Kuminga's ask a little bit less at the start of it next year? There's potential for that. Make no mistake about it. But I think we got to watch and see how it's going to all ebb and flow, right? Again, having a target is fine. Having that in mind is fine. We don't know the situation in which it could be that they have that. It could be, hey, if Coby walks, bet we're going to add Jonathan Kuminga to this team. It still makes your wing rotation a little bit questionable as far as ball handling and things like that. But, there's something that could be said about that. And so we shall see. I know that Kuminga has his fans in the Bulls fan base. They think that the acquisition of Jonathan Kuminga would be exactly what this Bulls team needs. I look at it on paper, and one thing about me is the analytics are a thing that does matter to me a lot, that I get caught up in sometimes, and I look at that and I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily the easiest fit on a team, but for a team in the Chicago Bulls that it's not like we're like this amazing playoff team that's slated to go on these deep playoff runs. And so if you want to take a shot at a player that you truly feel like has talent, okay. I mean, like I guess we'll see what the results end up being, but that's a lot of up in air as far as that's what's going on with it right now. We'll see what the Bulls ultimately decide. But I want to hear from you guys on this one. Like, in hearing that the Bulls could still do have an interest in Jonathan Kuminga and are watching this situation to see how it plays going into the offseason, where they could very well make or have a pursuit for Jonathan Kuminga where it could be easier for them to acquire him without giving up something at all. They have the cap space. They wouldn't even need a sign and trade to create cap space to get him one way or another. And if that's the route that they end up going, let me know what you guys think on that. And I guess it could be too, like, looking in the worlds in which this could work, is that what if it's not even, if the Bulls see the defensive versatility of Ayo Dosunmu being a better fit at the 2 next to Josh Giddey long term, you're then adding the offensive Jonathan Kuminga at the 3, keeping Modest Buzelis at the 4. You're allowing yourself time for to see what Modest and Noah are going to turn into, and that's what it's going to be. I mean, there's a world in which that, but I think the Jonathan Kuminga and the reported interest there highlights one thing, that this team, and I guess in a way they've always done that when you look at drafting Jaylen, drafting Julian, right, drafting P. Will, like even Ayo, right, is that this team, or AK, wants versatile wings on this team. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad way to go, right? I think when you look at some of the better teams in the NBA, for example, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the New York Knicks, and what they have in their wing rotation, right? You can even say the Cleveland Cavaliers. There's the guard rotation, but they have a wing rotation as well. Like versatile wings in the NBA is kind of the thing. The Atlanta Hawks added quite a bit of wings this offseason, right? And I even said the New York Knicks, I even took away the fact that they added Yabusele, Malcolm Brogdon, and Jordan Clarkson to a wing rotation that was already pretty deep, right? So, like, having these versatile wings that are plug and play as far as what different type of style that you want is another thing that's modern in the NBA, and that's the thing that we're going towards. And it's clear that's kind of the focus of what AK is doing here. Even adding Noah Essengate, another player that can play the 3 and the 4, right, and maybe some 5. Like, these versatile players that can play multitude of positions. That's the route that this front office is going with this team. And I, for one, don't think that that's necessarily a bad route, to be 100% honest with you. I think that it's a route that makes sense. I think that it's a route that you're seeing that it's a copycat league, and you're seeing a lot of teams around the NBA go to that model or prioritize the acquisition of wings. You look at the Lakers, they wanted reportedly a lot of wings here. They didn't necessarily get the wings that they wanted, right? They actually lost one that was the key. The Houston Rockets, another team with a bunch of wings, right, that are looking like up and coming. Part of the Indiana Pacers run last year because of the multitude of players they had at the wing. So, it's something that clearly AK is kind of focused on. And I think the Jonathan Kuminga, reported pursuit, it falls in line with that. That is what this team is prioritizing in this current build of the team. And that's something that I did talk about when we talked about, like, how, after the Josh Giddey signing, a lot of Bulls content creators came out. I was like, well, we're doing this with Giddey. It means that now you're kind of locked into having this type of player. And I specifically said then, like, yeah. And that's the type of player that most NBA teams want nowadays, right? Like, you want those versatile players. You want two-way players. You want 3-and-D players. You want that type of thing. And if that's what AK's, now I wouldn't call Kuminga a 3-and-D player as it stands right now. And there are some people that kind of hype his defense more than what I think it's deserved at this point. But there's no doubt about it that, that is the route that the NBA is going. And if the Bulls, who have now, we've talked about how they've caught up with a more modern style, right? Now building towards that play style. But I don't want them to get so caught up in wings that they forget one of the most important positions that they need if this is going to be their current style and current build. You need a shot blocking, mobile defending center that you need here. That's also a lob threat. That is even more so than the wings right now, right? Like, and I'm not saying that the Bulls' wings are in a perfect situation at all. I mean, make no mistake about it. I think that center has to be one of the priorities. Now, you can prioritize that in the draft, and I do think there are some guys that are going to fit that mold that are both going to be earlier in the draft, later in the draft, that the Bulls can have their run of their pick at, right? And be aggressive about going out there and getting if they want. But you got to eventually find that guy. And especially as you move to a backcourt, and now if it ends up being more Ayo and Giddey than Coby and Giddey, you solve some of the defensive questions there with Ayo, but even then, like, you still got other things that you have to question and you have to ask yourself when it comes down to that. So, we'll see. It's going to be, I've said this, and I know that for my more frustrated Bulls fans that are tired and want everything now, this is not necessarily the route that they want to see or the things that they want to see this team do the most. But like the place that the Bulls are at is going to take time, and they're going to have to build it organically. But even in the sense that what your build is here is going to take some time, and it has to be done, more organically, it does not mean that you can continually just go with things just completely unanswered, right? And that center position, you've taken your chances at like a Jaylen Smith, you traded for Zach Collins, perfectly fine and capable players at what they do well, but those aren't players that solve the type of center need that you have in the long term here. They just don't solve that. And so it's up for the Bulls to find that they got to still find that guy. And, much like where we were missing some things in the last build, it's just how quickly you answer those things and find those things, or how long this thing can take, right? And this build that the Bulls are going through now, the style that they're trying to really push forward now, you got to find the right guys and the right mix of players to get you there. Hopefully the Bulls do that. So yeah, we'll see. But the Kuminga thing, the future of Coby, the future of Ayo, the Bulls offseason is already going to be an interesting one to watch. Already with the Coby and Ayo, already with the draft picks, already with, having the most cap space in the league. It's going to be interesting to just see what the Bulls really do with that cap space. But if you add in and start like the draft and all that type of thing, like this offseason was cool for the Bulls, right? They didn't do a lot, but it was cool as far as the direction. I think next year is going to be the year where your acquisitions, you have to do more with your acquisitions, if that makes sense. And we'll see if the Bulls are up to that test. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. Let's go ahead and get into the mailbag portion of today's show. We got 3 voicemails we need to get into. This one's from AI.
What's up, Hayes? Bulls Nation. This AI kid. I wanted to address Ayo and these trade rumors that he might be going through with Kamanga. I think it might happen, or it may not happen due to the fact him being Chicago born and raised. I don't know. It's just something about me that feels like when Chicago drafts Chicago born and raised players, they feel a certain connection to them that they don't want to let go. And I feel like they was kind of forced to let D Rose go after seeing that he couldn't, get back to his country. But Ayo he's still growing, and it's not too much to go on of Bulls history, but what you probably know more about Bulls history. What do your knowledge tell us about Bulls drafting Chicago born and raised players and actually trading them? Because I don't know, because I think that's the reason they would keep him for that fact alone. And also, congrats to Josh Giddey on his signing. I want to know if him being paid this money makes him more of a focal point of the offense. So is he going to have to take more shots? Would that mean Ayo, or I don't know who takes less shots, but would it be more about Coby getting their game together? What does our offense look like now that he gets more money? That's what I also want to pose a question to. But let me know. Hey, appreciate you stepping our calls, man. You take care. Enjoy your weekend.
Okay, I don't think that Ayo's linked to the Kuminga thing at all, because at this point, I think everybody realizes that a sign and trade isn't going to happen, right? Like, that's not going to happen with the Bulls. Even if Kuminga does sign, let's even say he signs the 2-year deal where the second year is a player option where he has some control, it's so difficult for them to trade him in that first year. They can do that, right? Like, make no mistake about it, around December, it could be done, but, we'll see what happens at that point in time. So I think that the Kuminga thing that isn't really linked to Ayo. Now, as far as Ayo and what you brought up there, like, yeah, I think if you take away, let's just take away the fact that Ayo Dosunmu is from Chicago. Ayo has a skill set that we really don't have on this team. We have bits and pieces of it elsewhere. Like, Kevin Huerter's a fine offensive player that does some things defensively. He's not as bad defensively as what I thought, and I'll give him some credit for that, right? But he's still not anywhere close to a plus defender. He's a solid team defender. You have Isaac Okoro, who is a really good defender, but has never been a lockdown defender either. Now, maybe he can be that this season, but also isn't really an offensive threat. Like, yeah, he can put up 7, 8, 9 points, but it's not really some huge offensive threat. Ayo is a mix between the two, and the fact that he's not like, I mean, he can go off for 18 or 20 some games, but you're not looking at him as saying like, oh, it's the offense. He's a scorer. He's somebody that can score, but he's a true two-way player in the sense that he gives you a little bit of both. He can operate the ball in transition. He can do some ball handling things. He can play off ball. His off ball game has grown a lot over the last couple of years, and he's become one of Billy Donovan's favorite weapons and tools. And so I think all those things playing a part into it is that it paints this picture where Ayo's probably going to be here, and that's the right thing that should happen. Ayo Dosunmu should be a Chicago Bull, and that's not a problem. It's for me, right? Now, as far as your last thing, Giddey being the focal point of the offense, I mean, he was going to be a focal point of the offense regardless. I think in being, whether it was just his playmaking and his ability to start the fast break, be the main playmaker in the offense, that's going to be a thing. But I think also you look at it, and like his scoring is going to be needed right now. Like unless Modest takes a step scoring wise, which could be a possibility that could ease some of that scoring off of Josh Giddey. But you're going to want his creation and him being aggressive as well offensively. So I think those things are going to be, I think those things were going to be there regardless of the contract also. So with you have a point guard like Giddey who operates the offense as much, he's going to have his opportunities to score. And so we'll see what that brings for the Bulls and for him as time goes on. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from JC.
Hey, what up? This is Jay from the 219. Just want to leave my quick thought on a couple things. Listen to the podcast today, and some people saying Bulls got to make a choice between Coby and Ayo. Man, my thought on that is I don't think, man, we should really get into trying to have a steadily revolving door of players getting traded out and guys coming in. I think it's time, man, we need to hold on to the players we need to hold on to, and let's keep building this thing up. We got guys already talking about trading Giddey in another season or two, just fans or whatever. But I think it's time, man, we stop having this or thinking we got to have this revolving door of trades with our talent. We got some solid guys. Let's keep building these guys up, and let's build this thing up, man, and try to become a playoff team. Glad the Bulls got the Giddey deal done. That's done and over with. And, let's try to find us a center. And let's keep it going, man. Let's see what we do. Other than that, though, see red, go Bulls, peace.
For some fans, and I say some, like all they talk about is trading the moment that we either sign, trade for, or draft a player. They're automatically talking about we can get this for, like, as many people as like, oh, well, if we sign Josh Giddey to a $25 million deal, it could be difficult to trade. Like, they just go right to trading. That's a fan mindset and a fan thing. It is what it is there. But like you said, but what can you build here? And the Bulls are in a position right now where their biggest swings are gonna come in the draft. Their biggest chance to really become a team is the players that they draft turn into something. And so that allows you a little bit more flexibility in what you do with your money veteran-wise because you have that. And then the Bulls have flexibility anyway, money-wise. So, I think the thing is that as Bulls fans, we've been trained because it has been true for so long that the Bulls are so strapped for cash that they have to watch this because they don't have this maneuver. This is the first time in a long time the Bulls have really big flexibility financially coming up, and they really have a lot of what they can do. So I think that's the thing into it. That's why Bulls fans kind of have the mindset that they do. But I think that the Bulls are going the longer route right now. They're going the route that is going to have them build organically. They're going the route that could take longer to build something. But I do think once they get to that point, as long as they can get there, that it will be a team that is more that you can support longer, right? That it's more stable as far as you've built it now with stability, and that you can ride that wave a little bit longer if you do it right. And so that's where AK is. That's what they did in Denver. That's what he's trying to repeat here. And you're going to need some luck in that as well. You're absolutely going to need some luck in that. And if Modest ends up being the best player from his draft, you got him at 11, that's luck. If Essinge ends up being a really plus player on both sides of the ball, that's some luck there, right? You're going to need some of that luck to get to where you ultimately need to go, as every team does in the NBA. And the Bulls just have to buy this time out. I know it's not the most exciting for Bulls fans, but we'll see where it ends up at. But all right, let's get into this next one, man. This last one, this one's from Reggie.
Hey, this is Reginald calling in. I'm want to, spend a minute talking about what player do I think has the like most upside, or the guy I want to see show out the most. And the two guys I want to see are Jaylen Taylor and Julian Phillips. I say that because, of all the guys who we've seen make improvements, I think those two are probably had the most. And I know some people might say, but what about Coby? What about Ayo? Coby has always been a scorer. He's become more, we're still wondering about his consistency. Ayo has always been a good two-way player. This is their first time where both men can do what they do at one position. But when we're talking about Jaylen Terry and Julian Phillips, they were drafted based solely on their potential. You couldn't really say that each man specialized in one thing or the other. Like, I couldn't tell you that what Jaylen Taylor's going to be is lockdown defender or a great scorer. In the same way, I couldn't tell you that about Julian Phillips. So I'm hoping they step up. Hopefully they show us something, and by beating out guys and getting to come off the bench and get not significant minutes, but decent minutes. I am actually expecting Julian Phillips to beat out Patrick Williams for the backup forward position. But what do you think? Like,
Wanting to see Jaylen Terry and Julian Phillips exceed is not a problem, and it shouldn't be a problem for anybody because those are players that the Bulls drafted. Those are players that that we knew were going to be more raw. I do think Julian has gone kind of a bit overlooked in this. I think his two-way ability and ceiling that he has there, he's barely begun to scratch the surface of. If Jaylen Terry and Julian Phillips end up showing you something this summer to where you feel like, okay, these are cogs for us, maybe not featured pieces, but these are pieces that that can be on our bench, that can be part of our rotation that we need that we can go to and trust what they can bring. It helps your team with team building, right? So it's not a bad thing, right? And it saves the Bulls money Bulls money as well. Julian Phillips still has a couple more years left on his rookie scale deal. Jaylen Terry's a restricted free agent at the end of this year, but if Jaylen shows something this year, he's not going to be super expensive to retain. So then at that point, you're maintaining some flexibility at that point, right? So we'll see. And to your point as well, I think I've made this point a lot, is that Julian Phillips was getting off the bench before P. Will last season. So there's clearly some trust there, right? So, we'll see what happens in that. And if these guys end up turning into something to where you can trust them a little bit more coming into the season, great. That like, I'm not rooting against any of these guys, but they're going to have to come in and prove it. And I don't think that should necessarily be a problem at all. If you prove it in training camp in the preseason, cool. I mean, you're going to still keep it up during the regular season, but I don't think anybody should be mad at any player that steps up in those time period and then has a role going into the next season. And so we'll see how that shakes out. But that's my time for today, y'all. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.